Sunday. As you can see, it's gorgeous right now in Athens, Georgia, and I'm so excited to reintroduce you all to one of your old friends, Millie the pearl millet plant. Looking at her, she's probably changed a lot since the last time you've seen her, and that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today. You see, Millie has grown a lot of leaves, and these leaf structures on millet plants are called tillers. The same thing happens to other crops like corn. A lot of times though, this is seen as an unfavorable characteristic in some grasses because it can make it difficult to manage. But for millet plants, we love having a lot of tillers because millet is again used as a forage crop. And just to remind you, a forage crop is one that's used to feed grazing cattle. It can also be dried out as hay. So as much leaf matter as we can get for forage is a great thing. But as you also might remember, millet is also used for a grain or a seed crop. And one very striking difference that Millie has today that she didn't have several weeks ago is the fact that she now has a panicle, which is this structure right here where the seeds grow from. Since Millie has now grown her panicle where she bears her seeds, I would like to take the opportunity to tell you all about my particular research. So Millie is actually a plant in a study population that I have at the University of Georgia. And we think about what a population is. A population is a group of specific plants. They might come from a cross of one plant to another plant. They might be a naturally occurring population in a field, but they're basically a group of plants that I'm going to study the genetics of. And in my population of plants, I'm looking to map a gene regarding bristling length. So you might be wondering, what the heck are these bristles coming out of a pearl millet plant? Well, as you can see, Millie in particular has what we call long bristles. And there are these bristle-like structures coming out of the panicle where she bears her seed. Some people have said that bristles are actually used as a defense mechanism because birds love to eat pearl millet seeds. So by having pearl millet with bristles, long bristles in particular, the birds might be less likely to come and eat the seed. The lab that I work in, however, have found an even greater benefit of having these bristles. Before I joined my lab at the University of Georgia years ago, it was discovered that when long bristles were present in extreme dwarf pearl millet plants, that they actually had an intermediate plant height instead of an extreme dwarf plant height. But let me back up to describe the different heights of pearl millet plants and why one might want a shorter plant versus a taller plant. So during the Green Revolution, there was a famous scientist named Norman Borlaug, and he's known as the father of the Green Revolution because he saved millions of lives by developing dwarf wheat. Dwarf wheat was beneficial compared to traditional wheat because it didn't fall over as much. Whenever plants fall over, we call this lodging. And a lot of times when plants lodge onto the ground, they lose a lot of their seeds and farmers don't have as much yield to harvest. However, whenever we think about extremely dwarf plants, they actually are not beneficial to farmers at all. They're so short that they produce such small yield, and so the farmer really can't gain that much of a harvest from growing these extreme dwarf plants. But again, whenever long bristles are present in extreme dwarf pearl millet plants, they exhibit an intermediate plant height, which is actually beneficial because they are still less likely to lodge compared to tall pearl millet counterparts, while also not being extremely dwarf and producing very few seed. As a PhD student, one of my projects is to map the gene that controls the different lengths of bristling. I do this by looking at all of the pearl millet chromosomes and finding a pearl millet chromosome that this trait might be associated with, and narrowing down the interval on this chromosome that the gene might be located. It's my goal to eventually determine the exact gene and the exact sequence that controls this bristling length trait. To keep up with this project and all things advocacy, please go to the website in the description below.